Welcome back to the 2025 Big Sky Football Kickoff Show. I'm Megan Robinson. The conference preseason awards and rankings have been released. College football analyst Craig Haley of Stats Perform and The Analyst and Sam Herder of Hero Sports are here to give their insight on the Big Sky preseason polls. Guys, college football is back. I'm so excited to have you both here again. And Sam, I will go to you first. The newlywed, congratulations on that. But what were your initial thoughts on the preseason rankings?
Yeah, I thought overall it matches up probably with a lot of voters. We're doing, both media wise and coaches poll. You kind of saw similar results here. It was interesting to see how spread out some of the first place votes were. Obviously, Montana State getting most of the first place votes, but even Northern Arizona getting the first place vote. Sacramento State getting the first place vote as well. You saw UC Davis get, a few first place votes. And so I do think just with a lot of the unknowns in the conference this year, that is probably why you saw so many first place votes getting spread around multiple teams.
Montana State coming off the year they had, undefeated in the conference, national championship runner-up. They deserve to be number one. They've really kind of separated themselves over time under Coach Vegan. But after that, it's fascinating because there's different teams you can make a case for, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll be interesting to see who and if somebody can track down the Bobcats.
You both have mentioned Montana State. This offseason has been a season of change for the Bobcats. 2 new coordinators, only 10 returning starters from last year's team that made that national championship run for the first time in the Vegan era. No Tommy Mellott on that roster. With all that change in the program, Craig, why do you think people still have faith that the Bobcats will win the conference this year?
Well, it's, college football is now about reloading from year to year, and the Bobcats just seem to be able to do it. The way they've built their program, they just run through people with that offensive line and the physical style that they have. The running backs are just relentless. I mean, yes, it's a huge loss, as you mentioned, Tommy Mellott, but, somehow they just plug in players and just get it done. I mean, Adam Jones is just going to be fabulous, and you see that in the preseason accolades. I just think they've separated themselves, even though year to year, there's always somebody that's going to be right there with them.
Sam, you mentioned NAU getting that one first place vote in one of the polls. They were picked 8th last season, preseason polls, finished 4th, made the playoffs for the first time since 2017. They're 4th and 5th in each poll this season, top 25 team. What are your expectations for the Jacks entering 2025?
We saw an immediate success with head coach Brian Wright last year, and I think he's a phenomenal head coach that got things turned around pretty quickly at Northern Arizona, which a program that I think we all felt always had potential, just with their location and some of their resources, and weren't hitting that potential until we saw that last year. And I think how they exited the playoffs, maybe humbled them a little bit. There wasn't a good showing, and that probably provides some good motivation coming into this year. And they have a good nucleus coming back. And you kind of always look at the quarterback position, and with Ty Pennington coming back, I think that aids Northern Arizona even more when it comes to preseason rankings, because Montana State has a question mark at quarterback. Idaho does as well. Montana has a question mark at quarterback. UC Davis has a question mark at quarterback. So you look at all these top teams, and they all have, whether you want to call it question marks or just unknowns at quarterback, all these top teams have that, except for Northern Arizona, who has a really good quarterback in Ty Pennington coming back, who in his debut season last year for the Jacks really played well.
You both have mentioned teams with new quarterbacks. One of those teams is, of course, Sacramento State. High expectations for the Hornets this season. New head coach, 77 new players on that roster. They finished last year 3-9. However, this year they're top 25 in the preseason polls. Craig, I'll go to you first. What do you think it will take for this new look Hornets team to make a playoff push?
It stands out how so many of us feel like they're just going to turn around from last year. Obviously, they had a bad year, 1-7 in the conference, 3-9 overall. They have so much talent coming in, especially the FBS drop-down players like Rashad at quarterback and Jamar Curtis at Lafayette is just off the charts. So I think that's a big gain at running back. They're going to have to show a little bit more on defense this year. Obviously, they have the big names making splashes on offense. So I think they can get it done. but it will be quite the turnaround.
I think they have one of the more talented rosters in the FCS, and we've kind of been waiting for a team outside of the Midwest to maybe compete at that tier 1 level. And we'll see if Sacramento State can be at that level, and we'll learn pretty quick, obviously, with them going to South Dakota State. But, I like the talent they're bringing in, not only because you can look at, whatever 20 plus FBS transfers or whatever it is, but when you bring in FBS transfers that have played a lot of minutes and meaningful snaps at their previous school, I think that jumps off the page. And even the FCS transfers that they're bringing in, multiple guys that were impact players at their previous school. And so sometimes you can look at the quantity of Division I transfers coming in, and that's the case with Sacramento State, obviously, with the quantity, but also the quality is there as well. So I think it's a very, very talented roster. I'm with Craig with the defensive question marks. I do believe the Hornets have a chance to have one of the better offenses in the FCS, but defensively, I think is where the question marks arise as far as how good they are going to be on that side of the ball. And, as we know, in the FCS, it starts in the trenches. And so at the end of the day, how good Sac State is on the offensive line and defensive line is going to determine if they're a good team or if they're a great team.
We've discussed the preseason rankings for the Big Sky. Now let's talk a little bit about the preseason all-conference teams. Adam Jones and Rex Connors, the offensive and defensive preseason MVPs for the conference, but there were several other guys in both of those conversations. Craig, who were some of the other players who you think were deserving of MVP caliber play this season?
Yeah, Adam Jones obviously, stands out for what he does for an offense last year at Montana State. We talked about Ty Pennington being back at quarterback. He stands out among the quarterbacks, and the Big Sky is just so known for quarterback play. You have to look at Eli Gilman at Montana being a difference maker. I mean, the Jerry Rice Award winner 2 seasons ago, and just, he'll have 1,000 yards. In fact, he and Adam Jones returning as 1,000-yard rushers.
I mean, I certainly thought Rex Connors was the easy favorite for this preseason accolade, but there was another name to be in that conversation. I think Kenneth Iden is one of those. I also really like Cam Chapa from Northern Colorado. I think he's a heck of a player. I believe he was just a freshman last year, but he really splashed.
Yeah, Cam Chapa was a freshman All-American last season for UNC. High expectations for him. Jones and Connors, MVPs of their offense and defense. They're 2 of the Big Sky's 13 preseason All-Americans for FCS. Sam, which players on that preseason All-American list from the Big Sky do you think might also be in contention for the Walter Payton Award come December and January?
Yeah, I think Rex Connors, that's one that comes to mind just because with voters, they, racking up a lot of tackles is one way to get the attention, but I also think splash plays, whether you can, get a lot of TFLs or get a lot of interceptions, those also, jump off the page with voters. Offensively, I think Eli Gilman, just because he's such a known commodity in the FCS, Jerry Rice Award winner 2 years ago, last year had an even stronger season. I think if Montana's offense feeds him the rock even more, he's set for a really big season. So those are some names that come to mind.
The 3 that I mentioned earlier, Gilman, Ty Pennington, Adam Jones, they stand out. I also talked a little bit about Jamar Curtis coming over from Lafayette to Sac State, running back, already a 2-time Walter Payton Award finalist coming from the Patriot League. He stands out. I think he's just going to step in and be electric.
Guys, you alluded to it early on when we talked about the preseason polls for the team rankings. You both liked Montana State, but I'll ask directly, who is your preseason pick to win the Big Sky Conference this season? Craig, I'll go to you first.
You have to like the Bobcats. They've found another gear here under Coach Vegan. It's just, until somebody shows they can knock them off, I think they're the team to beat.
I think the Cats are going to have a great running back room. I think they're going to have one of the best offensive lines once again in the FCS. And I really like their front 7 or their front 6 as well defensively. I think Montana State, even if you look past the senior class they just lost and look past some of the transfers they lost to the FBS, they probably have the best nucleus of guys coming back. And so that's why I think the Bobcats deserve to get the number 1 vote, at least for me.